Hey everybody, Rory from A&S Gear. We've got a fill station in front of us. So this is the First Strike Scuba Yoke fill adapter or fill station. So this is for players who don't have easy access to a compressed air system or don't have a shop or a field nearby, and they're kind of just like rogue balling it out there in the woods or whatever. And they've got their scuba tanks and they need to fill their compressed air bottles from their scuba tanks. So first off, you need a scuba tank. Let's just start there. Typically, the scuba tanks you're going to find are a 3,000 PSI fill capacity scuba tank. Now, that is not cubic inches of space. That is just overall pressure inside the bottle. So this right here is going to be for that setup. I don't have a scuba tank here, but we'll kind of walk you through it, how it works. So you've got a couple different things on the yoke right here. You've got this part, which just screws in and out, and this is what is going to attach to the yoke of the scuba tank. All right, so this is going to fit on there so that you can get air from the scuba tank into the regular tank right here. This is your quick disconnect fitting, which is going to attach to your one-way right here. And this is your bleed valve that is on the other side. So first things first, this is going to go on to that section right there. So this will go on and attach to the yoke of the scuba tank. Once it's on, then you'll use this to tighten it down so that it is sealed onto the scuba tank. Now underneath this, you'll have a valve typically on the side right here, which will allow you to open and close the scuba tank. There is nothing on here that allows you to open the scuba tank besides the valve on the scuba tank. So all this does is just connect this to the scuba tank and create a passage for air to go through. So once this is on the scuba tank, we would then connect our bottle to the fitting, and we want to make sure that it snaps together, creating a good tight seal. What you don't want is to have this, you come up to it, you pull the collar back, you slide it on, you're like, yeah, and then you go to open up that scuba tank, and what happens? This goes boom, and it flies off. Make sure you pull the collar back, and then you watch and listen for it to snap together. That is very important. Safety is the #1 priority right here, especially when you're dealing with this amount of pressure. So we're coupled on. It's not going to go anywhere. Then our bleed valve, we close the bleed valve, and you don't need to crank it. You just need to come to where it stops and tighten it down. No wrenches, no nothing. You should be able to do this with your hands. You close that down. This way, when you open the scuba tank, the air coming out of the scuba tank, going into this, through here, and into here, can't escape out of here. All right, so we've closed that bleed off. And now we can watch the gauge boop, fill up your scuba bottle. You could also use this over here. Now, because our scuba tank is a 3K bottle, that's as high as it will ever fill. This bottle will fill to, if you're using this size, right around 3,000 PSI, because this is so much smaller than the scuba tank itself. But if you hooked up a bottle like this is a 68 cubic inch bottle, on a 3,000 PSI, a complete 3,000 PSI scuba bottle fill, you're probably only going to get maybe 2,800, 2,900 PSI into this bottle, because as the pressure comes out, it's going to even itself. So 3,000 PSI is not going to just all magically appear inside this bottle. You're going to get an even distribution of pressure between the two vessels. And because this is so much smaller than the giant scuba tank, it's going to even itself out right around 2,800 PSI or so. I mean, it depends. That means every time you fill it, it will drop more and more and more. So you'll get 2,800, maybe 29, 2,850 or so on the first fill. You completely deplete this one and you hook it up to the scuba tank again. Maybe you're at 26, maybe you're at 25. You will never get a complete 3,000 PSI fill ever. It just doesn't work that way. So I just want everybody to know that before you pick one up and you're like, why doesn't it fill all the way up? Well, that's why. So the bigger the bottle, the larger the gap is going to be every time you fill it. That's why a lot of these guys that have these, they'll do multiple scuba tanks and they'll have multiple adapters on it. They'll open one up and they'll fill it, and that will fill as much as it can. Then they'll take the tank off and they'll move it over to the other one and they'll fill. They'll take it off and they'll move it to the other one, doing a cascading system. And that's going to get this bottle as high up as it can while not just completely killing every single tank that you have. So something to think about. So after we have filled and the pressure has evened out and it no longer is putting pressure into the bottle, at that point, we close the scuba tank. So the valve on the scuba tank is shut down and no more pressure is trying to come through here. At that point, you cannot disconnect this because there is still pressure from here where the yoke on the scuba tank is in here. So in between this section is still compressed with as much pressure as in the bottle, 2,800 PSI, whatever it happens to be. So we need to be able to bleed the pressure that's in here out. And that's what this is for. We undo this, it goes, psst, the pressure pops out, and then we can easily disconnect this. Do not try to disconnect this fitting without bleeding it. This amount of pressure is incredibly hard to disconnect from. And if you do, it'll go pop, and you'll lose the O-ring that's inside here. It'll scare you. Maybe you peep in your pants a little bit. I don't know what you'll do. Just don't try to do it. Bleed it off. That's why it's here. And then easily disconnect your bottle. And that's it. So if you need to fill your bottles, maybe in the forest or wherever you happen to be playing paintball with your friends, and you don't have access to compressors or shops or whatever it is, or a local field, this might be your option right here. First Strike Scuba Yoke adapter for filling your own bottles. It's available through the website. Order yours now through ansgear.com.